my last home game of the season. It's probably I'm not defensive about it.
Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, all of that good stuff. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing Chelsea's hunt for a new centre-back. Obviously, Fabrizio Romano reporting that Chelsea are actively scouting in the centre-back market. We know a centre-back is going to be coming in, whether that's January or next summer remains to be seen. But some of the names coming out are Tomas Araujo at Benfica and, of course, his teammate there as well, Antonio Silva. So to discuss those two options in a bit more depth, their strengths, weaknesses, who would potentially suit Chelsea better. Delighted to welcome back Antonio. Bro, thanks for coming back as always. It's a pleasure to catch up. Let's start with Tomas Araujo. He seems to be one that's getting a bit more traction than Antonio Silva. Chelsea were interested in Araujo last summer. There were talks of a deadline day move, which didn't quite materialise in the end. He's 22. He fits that mould. He's not the most experienced, by the way. I was looking. He's only played 36 games for Benfica. Like Silva, he's come through the ranks there. He's a centre-back, obviously. Talk to me about him. Where he's not obviously come from nowhere, but he's fairly new on the scene.
He is, yeah, because of the form of his teammate Antonio Silva. Firstly, thanks for having us back on. It's an absolute pleasure. But yeah, Tomas Araujo is a profile-wise, he fits exactly what Enzo Maresca is looking for. Comfortable on the ball, he's good off the ball, got good awareness, he's mobile, he's quick. And one thing I want to say is Benfica play in their youth academy with a high line, so he's accustomed to playing to a high line. So profile-wise, he fits everything that Maresca is looking for. In addition to that, he's also very versatile. He can play right back, play right centre-back. So if needs be, he does need to cover it right back. He could fit that mould. And with the having experience at centre-back, say if you were inverting a full-back, he's comfortable enough being part of a back three. So profile-wise, he does fit a lot of what Enzo Maresca is looking for and the way Chelsea play. And I think the reason why he's probably getting looked at ahead of Antonio Silva is because of his form this season, but also he's a cheaper option than Antonio Silva. So yeah, profile-wise, he fits everything Enzo Maresca is looking for. Progressive in his play, very, very composed on the ball. It's like he's a central midfielder at times. He's so good in possession, but so is Antonio Silva. So the comparison between the two, they've actually got very similar profiles, but they're playing different ways, if that makes sense. So I'm not surprised that he has come on Chelsea's radar, one, because of his form this season, but he actually spent a lot of time on loan at Gilfin Vicente during the 2022-23 season. And again, in a team that isn't as high profile as Benfica, he stood out like a sore thumb. So he is performing very well, but like you say, he's quite inexperienced. But I think what Chelsea are looking to do is upgrade on the substitute centre-backs, such as Disasi, Balashil. And for me personally, both of those are an upgrade on the two that are there at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would agree. That's what Chelsea are looking for. I think they're trying to find that sweet spot between. Look, I think Fofana and Colwell is the partnership they want to go with. Not saying that can't change, but that seems to be what Maresca wants. And that, at 21 with Colwell, 23 with Fofana, that's a partnership that for the next however many years they want to stay at Chelsea could certainly develop into something decent. The problem is that the drop off, as you rightly say, in terms of if one of those comes out of the team, you're going to have to make some rotation, suspension, injuries, etc. Like your Tosins, etc., just aren't of that caliber. Badiashile, I thought, could have been that guy. I'm not saying he can't be, but I don't know what's happened to him. He seems to have dropped off a little bit. So you're looking for someone of that caliber that is good enough to play a decent amount of games for Chelsea and is good enough to put pressure on a Fofana and a Colwell to sort of, if their game drops, that we've got someone waiting to come into the team. I mean, look, you obviously look at Araujo. He's 22 years old, How would you compare him to a Colwell and a Fofana? Obviously, nowhere near as experienced as those guys, but
Yeah.
how do you sort of compare him quality-wise?
I think profile-wise, he's got everything. He ticks a lot of boxes. Quality-wise, I think the experience of Levi Colwell and Fofana stand out. I know Fofana had a long time out with injury, but he's a lot more experienced. He's played for the national team. Araujo has actually just been included in Portugal's squad because there was a dropout. So we could see him potentially make his debut for Portugal during these Nation League games. But comparison-wise, he's a bit more like Levi Colwell, comfortable on the ball, progressive in his play, really switched on when playing out from the back. He's so comfortable in the... What I find best attribute about Tomas Araujo is his vision on the ball, just spotting runners and just playing the ball into space. I can just envision it now with Nicholas Jackson's movement and him finding them from deeper areas. He's brilliant at that. And I think Levi Colwell's got something similar where he doesn't mind missing out that middleman and hitting Nicholas Jackson if needs be. He's got that vision on the ball and he's got the technical execution to deliver the pass as well. Now, one thing I will say about Tomas Araujo, he's more aggressive in possession than he is out of possession. When he's defending, he's a lot more conservative. It's a lot more about timing rather than aggression. But when he's on the ball, it's the opposite. It's about a lot more aggressive, looking to play forwards. And I think that's the quality he brings, especially with a team like Chelsea that want to progress through the lines, want to beat the first line of press to then express himself in advanced areas. He's got those qualities that just would add an extra dimension to what Chelsea bring. Now, defensively, why I think they're looking at Tomas Araujo over Antonio Silva. Personally, I think when they were both coming through, because they're similar ages, I thought at youth level, Antonio Silva always had the highest ceiling. But in recent times, Tomas Araujo's just stepped up another year. So credit to him because he's kind of become a late developer. Antonio Silva did unbelievable things in the Champions League and with Benfica win the first in his first season, win the league title. I mean, he helped them top a group of the Champions League with PSG and Juventus, so you know he's got quality. But the difference between Tomas Araujo, I think he's better in wide areas. I think Antonio Silva is a lot more static in his defending, whereas Tomas Araujo is a lot more mobile, agile than Antonio Silva. And I think that's probably the only difference between the two is why Enzo Maresca is looking towards Tomas Araujo over Antonio Silva.
Yeah, I mean, you look at someone like Antonio Silva, for example. Like I was looking, compared to Araujo, he's played over 100 games for Benfica. He's capped just under 20 times for Portugal. He's about 15 or 16 caps. He's obviously a few months younger at 21 to 22. But so that would suggest he is comparatively better, or certainly has been in the early part of his career. Maybe the gap is maybe getting a little bit smaller now. Finance has probably got something to do with it. Antonio Silva would be a lot more expensive a deal to do than Araujo would. But in terms of Silva, if Chelsea would decide to go for Silva and pursue that move, do you think he would be a good fit as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I rate Antonio Silva so highly. He's just as good in possession, composed, adequate. He's assured. His distribution is brilliant. You've only got to look at these statistics. Now, I know you can't judge everything on statistics because a centre-back having a 98% pass accuracy, they can just pass it between the back four, which I understand, but he's really progressive and forward-thinking in his play, which is a real big positive. And that's the way Chelsea play. But the difference in defending between Tomas Araujo and Antonio Silva, Tomas Araujo is a lot quicker. He's a lot more agile. Antonio Silva is a lot more aggressive. So I think Antonio Silva would be a good partnership for Levi Colwell because you can have one aggressor, both of them good on the ball, but Antonio Silva brings that aggressiveness. And with Antonio Silva, I wouldn't say he's error prone. that's not the right, but he's made some errors. But I like his attitude and his character to bounce back from that. And I was looking at Tomas Araujo's statistics the other day, and I know he's only played half the games Antonio Silva has, but he hasn't made an error leading to a goal. He hasn't even made an error leading to a shot. And I think that's the difference, what Chelsea are looking for, because I think when we play with Disasi and Balashil at the back, every time we try to play out the back, you've got your heart in your mouth. Your heart sinks. You're worried because they're not reliable. Whereas if they up the quality, it would not only give them more strength and depth, but you would every other player on the pitch would feel more at ease during the 90 minutes. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it would be a lot more controlled. It would be a lot more structured. And when you want to compete for league titles and Champions League, you need squad depth.
No, you absolutely do. But I mean, I look at it and think, would either of those guys, though, swap playing week in, week out at Benfica to a squad role, essentially, at Chelsea? Because that's what it would be to start with. I'm not saying they couldn't potentially force their way into the starting lineup, but that's the tricky thing you've got. The tricky task that you're going to face is how do we convince these guys in the formative years of their senior careers that coming to Chelsea is the right thing to do, to not play that regularly, maybe for a season or two. That's where I think Chelsea could have a few issues.
Yeah, but I think players like Tomas Araujo and Antonio Silva, they back their own ability. Players move to bigger clubs because they believe they'll be able to force themselves into the team. So that's what they back. And it's up to Chelsea to sell the project to them, to not be... And when you sell the project, you're not telling players that they're going to be playing week in, week out. You want them to be part of the overall squad. So whether that be missing out on a game or two. And I don't think Enzo Maresca trusts Wesley Fofana to play every single minute of every game, because I just don't think he wants him to break down, and I don't think he wants to overload his work structure. So I think having somebody with just as much quality to come in and step in, you could sell that to the players. You could say, look, Wesley Fofana, he's coming back off injuries. He's not going to be playing every game of the Premier League or next season, hopefully in the Champions League. So that's when you can step in. And if you make a difference, that's when you can come into the side. We've seen the season with Tomas Araujo. He only came into the side this first game of the season because of an injury. And he's kept his place. I mean, he started 8 out of the 11 league games. And last season, he didn't have a look in. So it's all about taking your opportunity when it comes. And I think these two boys have the talent to do that.
And then just last thing, mate, in terms of who you think might suit Chelsea better out of the two, if you were the guy making the decisions, who would you be looking to sign out of the pair of them?
That's a tough question, because in terms of just an overall player, I prefer Antonio Silva. But in terms of what Chelsea want, it's probably Tomas Araujo, because Chelsea play with a high line. He's quicker. Chelsea want to trust their centre-backs in wide areas. He's better in one-on-one situations. And also, Tomas Araujo is better aerially. He's got a better aerial win percentage. So in terms of taking what Chelsea need, personally, I think Tomas Araujo fits the bill over Antonio Silva. But that's not to go and say Antonio Silva is a bad player, because I think Antonio Silva, this counteracts what I'm saying. I think Antonio Silva has a higher ceiling, but I always say football's about partnerships and profiles. And I think profile-wise, if you're looking for someone quick, good on the ball, progressive in the play, and strong in duels, but good aerially as well, and Tomas Araujo takes those boxes.
Well, mate, I'm sold. I'm sold. Again, I mean, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I'm not sure what we're talking price-wise. Benfica, Rui Costa, they're tough negotiators, as we found out with the Enzo Fernandez deal. They will get the best possible deal for the club and the best fee they can possibly get. We know that Benfica are a selling club; they will sell.
Yeah.
So it's up to Chelsea to kind of agree some sort of a fee. But yeah, centre backs definitely needed, and it sounds like both these guys do fit the bill. I'm sure there'll be other names on there. Usman Diamonde is one that's been mentioned in the past as well as Sporting Lisbon. I don't know if that's interest is cooled a little bit on Chelsea's behalf and maybe just cooled in general because he was linked with a lot of clubs, maybe not so much now, but there's still a top player there. And there's probably some other unknowns out there that, rank very highly on the data, which could come in as a surprise. But mate, thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciated. Thanks for the lowdown on those two players. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash the likes and subscribe, all of that good stuff. Mate, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so my Twitter handle's on the bottom there, as you can see. And if you just type in the YouTube, type in Antonio Mango, hit the subscribe button. I've also done a scout report on Tomas Araujo, where I really go in depth on him. So check that out if you can, please, as well. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, make sure you do that. Channel will be tagged in the title. Just click on there, show Antonio some love. Loads of great content over there. So make sure you are subscribing. And I'll catch you again in another video soon, guys.